You left. Maybe it was last week. Maybe it was 3 years ago. Maybe it was so long ago that you have stopped counting the days and started counting the versions of yourself that existed before and after. You left, and somehow, you are still apologizing for it. Not always out loud, not always to them, but in the quiet moments, in the 3 a.m. conversations you have with yourself, in the way you replay the ending and find yourself cataloging everything you could have done differently, in the way you still feel the need to justify your decision to people who were not even in that relationship, in the way the word selfish sits somewhere in your chest, like a stone you have not yet managed to put down. You did the hardest thing, and you were made to feel like the villain for doing it. That is not an accident, that is a strategy, and it is older than you think. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote about it in 1513. Not about relationships, not about heartbreak, but about power, about the specific, deliberate mechanisms that those who need control use to keep the people they are losing from ever fully getting free. And what he described, what he mapped with the cold precision of a political strategist, is exactly what happened to you after you left. So today, we are going to name it, all of it, the guilt and the second guessing and the apologies you never should have given, and the ones you are still rehearsing in your head. We are going to pull it apart and look at exactly what it is. Not love, not proof that you were wrong. Strategy deployed against your freedom, and it is time you stopped falling for it. Part 1. The guilt is not organic. Here is the first thing you need to understand, and I need you to really sit with this one. The guilt you feel for leaving did not grow naturally inside you. It was planted. This is not a metaphor. This is not a dramatic way of saying that leaving is hard. It is a precise description of what happened. The guilt you carry was deliberately cultivated over the course of the relationship, so that by the time you found the courage to go, leaving would cost you something almost too high to pay. Machiavelli wrote about this in the context of political rule. He described how the most effective rulers do not wait for rebellion and then crush it. The most effective rulers create conditions in which rebellion feels not just dangerous, but morally wrong. They construct a psychological environment in which the governed come to believe that loyalty is virtue and departure is betrayal. Think about that in the context of your relationship. How many times were you told, directly or indirectly, that leaving would be selfish, that real love stays, that the problems you were experiencing were problems you co-created and therefore problems you were obligated to stay and fix, that walking away meant you were a quitter, that you were abandoning someone who needed you, that after everything they had given you, after everything you had built together, after all the history and the love and the hard times you had survived, leaving now would be an act of profound betrayal. That is not love talking. That is architecture. Someone built that belief system inside you, brick by brick, over months and years of subtle and not so subtle messaging designed to make the cost of leaving feel higher than the cost of staying. Machiavelli understood that the most powerful chains are the ones the prisoner builds themselves. You do not need to lock someone in a room if you can convince them that walking out the door makes them a bad person. And here's the thing about those chains. They do not break the moment you leave. They come with you, wrapped around your chest. pulling you back toward the apologizing, the explaining, the second-guessing, the "are you sure you did the right thing?" You did the right thing, but the chains were already built before you made the decision. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler who cannot maintain power through strength will maintain it through the appearance of weakness when necessary. Because a strong opponent you can fight, a collapsing one you feel responsible for. This is not to say that the person's pain is not real. It may be entirely real, but real pain does not obligate you to destroy yourself to manage it. Real pain does not transfer ownership of your life to the person experiencing it. And real love, even in its most broken, devastated form, does not weaponize its own suffering to prevent someone from leaving. When someone's pain is consistently deployed at exactly the moment you try to create distance, that is a pattern, and patterns are not accidents. Tactic 3, the reputation strike. You leave, and suddenly the story of why you left, told to your mutual friends, your family, anyone whose opinion matters to you, is a version you do not recognize. In their version, you are the one who gave up. You are the one who was selfish. You are the one who hurt them. You are the one who should be ashamed. This is preemptive narrative control, and Machiavelli described it as one of the most essential tools available to a ruler facing deposition. Control the story before your opponent can tell theirs. Ensure that anyone whose allegiance might be contested already has a version of events that positions you as the wounded party. The goal is not just to damage your reputation. The goal is to make you spend so much energy defending yourself, explaining yourself, managing other people's perception of you, that you have no energy left to actually build your new life. The goal is to keep you tethered to the relationship even after you have physically left it, still fighting for the narrative, still trying to be understood, still, in some sense, still there. Tactic 4, the intermittent return. Just when you have found your footing, just when the days are starting to feel manageable, just when you have stopped checking your phone every 20 minutes, they come back. Not aggressively, not demandingly, softly, with exactly the right words, with the version of themselves that you first fell in love with the vulnerability that feels completely genuine, with the apology that sounds like they finally understand. Machiavelli wrote about the strategic use of retreat. Sometimes the most powerful move a ruler can make is to appear to surrender, to step back, to soften, to offer peace, not because the war is over, but because the retreat is itself a tactic, a way of resetting the board, of drawing the other side back into proximity, of beginning the cycle again from a position of apparent humility. The intermittent return is not necessarily conscious, but it is consistent, and it works because you are a person who still has love in you, who still holds the memory of who they were at their best, who still, somewhere underneath the clarity, hopes that this time might be different. It is not different. The tactic is the same, only the timing has changed. Tactic 5, the identity attack. This is the most sophisticated and the most damaging. This is when the guilt is not delivered as a complaint or a collapse or a reputation strike. It is delivered as a revelation about your character. You are the kind of person who leaves. You are someone who gives up when things get hard. You are proving everyone right about you. You are exactly what they always said you were. This is who you really are. Machiavelli wrote that the most effective way To neutralize an opponent is not to destroy their body, but to destroy their belief in themselves. A person who doubts their own judgment cannot trust their own decisions. A person who has been convinced that their deepest instincts are corrupt will second-guess every move they make. This tactic takes everything you have ever been insecure about, every private doubt, every old wound, every fear about who you really are at your worst, and weaponizes it against the one decision you made entirely in the service of your own survival. Machiavelli said that a ruler who has lost the genuine will of the people is already defeated. He may not know it yet. He may still have the appearance of power. He may still be able to create guilt and obligation and fear. But the outcome is already written. Because you cannot govern a person who has remembered their own sovereignty. You remembered yours. That is why you left. And that is why no amount of guilt, however real it feels, however carefully it was constructed, however convincingly it is delivered, can be allowed to rewrite that moment. Part 6. The people who make you justify the leaving. Let's talk about the third party. Because the guilt does not only come from the person you left. Sometimes it comes from the people around you. The ones who did not see what you saw. The ones who liked them. The ones who ask questions that sound like concern but land like accusation. Are you sure? Did you try everything? Could you have handled it differently? Have you thought about how hard this is for them? Machiavelli wrote about the court, the network of people surrounding power who have their own investment in the stability of the existing order. These are not necessarily bad people. They are not necessarily conscious of their role, but they have built their own comfort, their own social reality, their own sense of the world around the continuation of things as they are. And when things change, when someone leaves, when the dynamic shifts, when the story they understood is suddenly complicated, they resist, not always loudly, sometimes just with a question, sometimes just with a look. You do not owe these people a justification. You do not owe anyone a case file documenting why you left. You do not need to produce evidence sufficient to convince a jury. You are not on trial. The details of what you lived through, the private moments, the things that happen behind closed doors, the accumulation of small erosions that nobody from the outside ever sees, those belong to you. You are not obligated to translate them into language convincing enough for people who were not there. You know what happened. You know what it cost. You know what staying was doing to you. That knowledge does not require external validation to be true. And here is the Machiavellian truth about people who demand that justification. A person who genuinely loves you does not require you to prove that your pain was real enough to warrant your own protection. A person who is truly in your corner accepts "I needed to leave" as a complete sentence. Anyone who requires more than that is consciously or not serving the interests of the system you just escaped. You are allowed to decline that conversation entirely. Part 7. The guilt that comes from love. I want to be careful here, because not everything you feel is manipulation. Some of the guilt is real, in the truest sense. It comes from genuine love, from genuine history, from the real and irreplaceable good things that existed alongside the painful ones. Machiavelli would not have understood this complexity. His world was cleaner: rulers and subjects, power and strategy, winning and losing. He did not account for the particular grief of leaving someone you genuinely loved. The simultaneous truth of this hurt me and I loved you. Of this was wrong and I will miss it. Of I had to go and losing you is a real loss. That grief is not manipulation. That grief is not a reason to go back. But it is also not nothing. It is the price of having loved something real, even inside something harmful. And it deserves to be honored rather than dismissed. The work is not to stop feeling the grief. The work is to stop confusing the grief with guilt. To stop treating the ache of genuine loss as evidence that you made the wrong choice. To allow yourself to mourn the good parts without being pulled back into the hole. You can grieve the relationship without apologizing for leaving it. You can miss certain moments, certain versions of them, certain feelings, without owing anyone your continued presence. Because you remembered yourself, and you chose yourself. And however imperfect the leaving was, however messy the exit, however much you stumbled on the way out, however many times you almost went back, you got out. Machiavelli spent his life studying the mechanisms of control. He mapped them with brilliant, ruthless precision. He named the tools and the tactics and the strategies with a clarity that 500 years have not diminished. But he never wrote about you. He never wrote about the person who was controlled and knew it and left anyway. The person who carried the guilt like a stone for years and still kept walking. The person who was told in 100 different ways that leaving made them a bad person and who decided slowly, painfully, imperfectly that they trusted their own truth more than that verdict. He never wrote about the particular courage of someone who stops apologizing. Not out of cruelty, not out of indifference, but out of the deep, quiet, unshakable conviction that their life belongs to them. That their freedom was not a betrayal, that surviving was not a sin. He never wrote about that because strategy cannot map it. Control cannot account for it. Power has no answer for the person who has simply decided they are done being governed. That is you. Stop apologizing for it. You left. And it was the bravest and most loving thing, loving to yourself, that you have ever done. And the only person in this story who owes anyone anything is the one who made leaving necessary in the first place. Not you, never you.